working with peri and post-menopausal women for almost a quarter of a century now. Why that and how that led me to you and to talk to you tonight was that in primarily focusing on women and hormonal issues, somewhere along the way, I let myself get way out of control with my own weight. And I come from a family history of type 2 diabetes and people that a whole line of people that it's very easy to weight in probably the last 10 years of my practice, which led me to start looking out at, with my knowledge of biochemistry, of why was this going on. I wasn't particularly eating a junk food diet. I was trying to keep my fat low and getting plenty of fiber in my diet and things like that, but it kept ballooning. So I began the journey that I know a lot of you have now opened your eyes to, of looking into what's going on with this mechanism of metabolic health, and why is it that you can't just eat a reasonable calorie diet and exercise your way to weight loss. So with that being said, I delved into the mechanisms of low carbohydrate, ketogenic diet, lot going on there that we don't have the time for tonight. But the big picture is this: I learned in the last 6 years, 5 to 6 years, and was able to drop just close to 100 pounds off myself, that there is something that's being missed in the profession of healthcare today that is leading people in the wrong direction of how to lose weight. So with that being said, we'll get more into that later as you get to know me better. But what's important is that this made such a difference in my own life that I could not deny that this had to become the cornerstone of the rest of my career in the practice of healthcare and medicine. And so what I have decided to do and have done is to mirror the two together, and to take the specialty that I normally work with, which is women in the age brackets of anywhere from, say, 38 to 65 years old, who are dealing with hormonal changes, maybe have thyroid issues, maybe have adrenal issues, digestive problems or whatnot, and then to bring in the metabolic health piece to that, and coach them in a way to be able, because weight gain and the inability to lose weight during this peri and postmenopausal time in your life, and there's a reason for that. We will get to that. It's about the hormonal shift. So I've designed kind of a way to approach that hormonal shift of how the ketogenic diet needs to be done a little bit differently. And with kind of ending there for a second, this is where I want to bring in and introduce all of you to my dear friend, Michelle Dowker, and let her talk a little bit about how her piece of us partnering together can help you. And say hello, Michelle.
Hello. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, like Jay said, he's had quite the journey in terms of figuring out some truths about eating and hormones and how they affect your health and your wellness. My journey was a little bit different. Mine didn't have to do with weight gain. It was more about dealing with autoimmune issues and learning how to control inflammation and autoimmune flare-ups using food. So it's a little bit different, but a little bit the same, right? Using food to heal you. And so my focus, I particularly enjoy working with women as well. And what I do when I work with someone is help them to understand what foods might be contributing factors to their concerns, especially with weight gain. Inflammation and hormones are two of the major players. And Dr. Wrigley is an expert in hormones, as if you haven't already figured this out. And so inflammation is also a piece of the puzzle, and what we eat is part of that. And so what I do is I help people sort of figure out what foods might be triggering them, step by step, trying to figure it out so that they can understand how their body's reacting to different things. And then help people with the meal planning piece and understanding how to prepare food and how to prepare and plan according to their own lives and lifestyles and taste preferences, right? Because everyone's different. So it's not just about giving you one meal plan and telling everybody to follow the same thing, because that's not going to work for everybody. It's very individualized, right? And then the other piece of what I really enjoy doing, because I understand this from my own experience, is that stress and uncontrolled stress, right? Because of uncontrolled stress hormones can lead to inflammation and flare-ups and hormonal problems. And I learned from my own experience that uncontrolled stress causes a lot of problems. And so I figured out how to help myself. And so part of what I do is to help other people how to figure out that piece of the puzzle too, because it's totally possible and it makes such a difference. Does that make sense?
Good point. Yeah, good point, Michelle. And so let me touch on that. This is how we play off each other, me and Michelle, and hopefully to help you guys is, so Michelle's talking about that in especially in the Western world where we deal most of our life is, stress is prevalent. There's a lot to get done in your life. Well, how this affects you, especially a woman who is going through some hormonal shifts, is that the declining of a hormone called progesterone, which keeps your adrenal glands and your thyroid in the base of your throat functioning well, in the presence of stress, what happens is your body has to make another hormone called cortisol. So cortisol is your stress response. You know it as the flight or fright syndrome, where if you need to move quickly back in the day, 10,000 years ago or something, if you were being chased by a large animal, you needed to be flooded with cortisol to respond quickly. But you don't need much of it. So what happens in the Western world, in the modern society, especially for a woman who's lowering her progesterone, is that the little bit of progesterone that she has is being eaten up to make cortisol, because that's how the body works. It uses progesterone to manufacture cortisol. So as cortisol rises, a lot of you have heard about the hormone called insulin, which puts a brake on fat loss. Cortisol does the same thing. So if you have an elevation of cortisol because you're stressed all the time, you are not going to be able to lose weight. You're going to retain that weight typically around the belly area. And again, there are solutions for this. This is what we do. So my job would be to come in and do an assessment of someone and say, okay, I can tell in your case, Miss Jane Doe, let's say, that there has been a tipping towards elevation of cortisol, progesterone levels are falling. This means that you're now in what we call an estrogen dominant state. Another whole picture here. This is beginning to slow down your thyroid function. This is why you find that you are, say, 48 years old, and now what you used to be able to do to drop 10 pounds very quickly doesn't work at all. Because if we don't shift this back into balance, take some stress off the adrenal glands, bring maybe the progesterone back up, whether we use nutritional supplementation, or in some cases, I might even choose to use bioidentical progesterone therapy. But whatever it is, what our goal is to get these glands and the hormones back in balance, so that when you put the effort into the ketogenic diet or a low carb diet of any type, and we have our particular slant on how you should do that, but anyway, so that you get rewarded. Because how many of you out there know either yourself or somebody else that you have watched put the effort into a low carb eating way of eating, and watched on social media or wherever else, all of these people who seem to be getting these amazing results, right? But you or somebody, a friend of yours, is putting in the effort, doing everything right as far as that you've been told so far, with a reward of maybe you've lost 3 pounds in the last 6 months. That just doesn't work. That's just, that's not what gets me inspired. It's not what's inspiring you. It is, we are results oriented. There's a reason, there's a block, because the truth of the matter is this: low carb works. If you keep insulin levels low, your body has to go after your body fat for fuel. So the biochemistry works. If it's not working for you, something else is missing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how that would go into what me and Michelle, and I'm gonna let her speak about this in a second, is that I would think that first off, it's one of two things. Either you still have issues with certain foods in your diet that might be considered to be low carb. This is where Michelle can spotlight this. I would say also, I'd be looking for, okay, like I just said earlier, if your hormones are out of balance, you're not getting rewarded for all the effort you're putting into your diet. So we need to fix that so that you get the rewards from what you're doing with keto, or whether it be low carb, high protein, low carb, high fat. We'll get into that later. Anyway, Michelle, let me turn that over to you for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to kind of add on to that, what Dr. Wrigley was mentioning about, these hormones, and particularly that stress hormone. So, even if you're changing your diet and, reducing insulin, but you've got that stress hormone way up there, you're not going to see the results. And so, there's supplements that you can use to help to calm the adrenal glands down and support better stress hormone levels. However, if you pair that with learning how to better manage your stress in the first place, that's a winning combination. Because then once you get everything controlled with supplements, and then you learn your stress management, then you're smooth sailing. And then the other thing, of course, is that the more uncontrolled stress you have, not only is that going to contribute to weight gain and difficulty with weight loss, but it also contributes to hot flashes, right? Would you agree, Dr.
Absolutely.
Wrigley? Yeah.
Totally.
And so,
and Michelle, yeah, touch on just a little bit about how someone can be eating the foods that would be supportive on a low carbohydrate diet. And yet they might not be working for them. I'm thinking, you're this is your wheelhouse when I say something like, somebody could think, wow, I'm doing great by, all I eat as far as carbs is things like a lot of spinach and whatever. So get into like how oxalates and some of these things might be pro-inflammatory and keeping somebody from losing weight.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a huge topic, and it's going to be different for everybody. It really depends on kind of what's going on for them. But big ones that I do see that can be contributing factors to why you might not be experiencing weight loss, and we mentioned it over and over again in this group, is first of all, dairy is a big one for some people, right? So we do tell people, if you're not seeing results, try cutting out dairy for a few weeks and see if you see a difference. But of course, this is not the be all and end all. It's not everybody has an issue with it, and it's not going to be a resolving factor for everybody. There's other things to consider as well, like Dr. J mentioned about oxalates. So oxalates are found in certain plant-based foods and they can activate something called the inflammasome. And so this is something that happens in the body that can actually activate the immune system that contributes to inflammation, right? And as we mentioned, when you've got too much inflammation, this can prevent you from losing weight, right? And it can also lead to things like pain and swelling and all sorts of other issues, skin problems. And so say, for example, with oxalates, there's many different foods, but the top ones that are high in oxalates are things like spinach and almonds and beets. Those are big ones. And I mean, if you think about keto and you think about all the health foods out there, there's so many green smoothies with spinach and people are chugging down, but actually they might be doing themselves a disservice. And then you look in the keto community, and we've got all these baked goods made with almond flour. And for some people, that actually might be contributing to more inflammation and preventing them from actually getting the results they're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So so it is a little bit tricky, but at the same time, this is why, we do what we do. We want to provide a resource for people because there's too many people out there who just are handed kind of a guideline and go, hey, go eat this way, cut the carbs out, eat a bunch of fat, eat some protein, get into ketosis, and your life magically gets all better. There are some people who that respond that way. I would say that in my experience and Michelle's experience, we deal with the people that's not their experience at all. It takes a little bit more work because there is something that's holding that dam back from them having not only the leanness that they want, but the overall health that they want. And there has to be a little bit of investigative work. And this is why it's helpful to work with a professional. So this is what we do, right? Now, there's an intermediate step while you might be thinking about this. So we met each other because we're like-minded, but we specialize in something a little bit different, but they come together beautifully, right? So when I met Michelle, again, I've never even met Michelle personally. We met through this beautiful thing called the internet. She lives in Canada. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, but we're like minds. And so anyway, where I'm going with this is we built a program because of my thought around hormonal balancing and how that shifts a little bit of the way that you look at fat and protein as the component of the ketogenic diet and how that needs to be shifted a little bit. And Michelle's brilliance in working with people about all the other factors of food choices, timing of eating, keeping stress down in your life, mindfulness, or whatever. So we built a program. Some of you might be familiar with it, but let me remind you about it. We built a program called the Ketogenic Code. You can find it at ketogeniccode.com. We'll put up that information later if you haven't seen it already. This is an 8-week step-by-step program specific. Now, let me say it this way. It's for everybody and anybody. There is a little bit of it that was designed in mind with peri and post-menopausal women. But I get this question a lot from men who contact me constantly of, is this only for women? No, the guidelines of this are set up for health and wellness for anybody. But with that being said, if you are a woman who's already began to make some hormonal shifts, say you're in your anywhere 42 to 43, all the way up to say 60, we laid this out specifically for how you approach the low-carb ketogenic diet with in mind the hormonal shifts that are going on with you, why that means that you need to change your protein and fat ratios a little bit, and then lots of other tidbits around food planning, recipe stuff. So take a look at that. Take a look at the Ketogenic Code. If you're just looking for the guideline, I get approached a lot saying, hey, Dr. Wrigley, have you written a book yet about what you do? Because the people that know me on Twitter, this is where I spend most of my time, ask for this all the time. No, that hasn't happened yet. But in the meantime, before we sit down to pen this thing out, we have already created, this is better than a book. This is an 8-week program where you get fed week by week. Here's where you move into on the second week. Here's what you do on the third week. Michelle's brilliant at this. So take a look at that. Then beyond that, if you want some more specific instruction, both of us are available for private consultation. This is, when I deal with someone, I'm looking at piecing together the hormonal piece, making some recommendations around either nutritional supplements to drive specific pathways to accelerate this for you, to bring these cortisol levels down, maybe stimulate a little bit better thyroid function, and all of that. And Michelle, does the coaching brilliantly. So this is what we offer. And again, tonight's goal, and I think we're about there. I'm going to let Michelle talk a little bit more, but what we really want to do is to get all of you to have an introduction of who we are, what we do, where our passion is, why we blended together, and why we think that we have something really valuable for everybody, but a little bit more specifically for females, because this is just what I know. I understand female hormonal chemistry as well as I think anybody who's not a female. We have something really neat to offer. So Michelle, with that, let's talk about, once you finish up with, how people, get in touch with you, and how to move forward.
Well, first, I just wanted to say somebody did leave a message on here. So I just wanted to sort of address the question. Diana asked about hot flashes. She's been experiencing mild hot flashes and night sweats. When I eat very low or almost no carbs, I experience no flashes and sweats, and my cycle goes back to normal instead of sporadic. Is this normal?
Okay, so all right, treading on, let's see. So without knowing more about this person, what I would say is that this is a very common finding, because usually what happens is that the lower carbohydrate that you go, two things are happening. One is that carbohydrate is being replaced by really good quality protein usually, but more importantly, the fat that comes along with that protein, which we would advocate for, is the driver for your body to be able to produce hormones. So let me give you a little bit of biochemistry 101 for just a second. So the way that this works is your liver manufactures cholesterol. This is not, we're not talking about dietary cholesterol right now. Your liver manufactures cholesterol. Cholesterol is then turned into a hormone called pregnenolone, which is what we call the master hormone. Then from pregnenolone, your body converts that into progesterone, which we call the mother hormone. The reason we call it that is because progesterone is the most useful hormone and the critical hormone for if you're going to get pregnant, stay pregnant, and a lot of other things related to immune system and thyroid health. But so anyway, where I'm going with this is that usually when you lower carbohydrates more, you are including foods that are the building blocks to support hormonal health. So that would be one, and a big one. Another one would be, and this goes back to what Michelle specializes in, is probably in this person who would say that when I go almost no carb, my hot flashes go away, is the carbs that she was choosing to eat are interfering with some pathway and stimulating this, what we call this vasomotor response. That might be some offending food, that might be oxalates, that might be phytates or whatever. Michelle, you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many different foods that could be, if there is a food that this person was consuming that was creating some sort of inflammatory response, whatever that might be. And of course, I can't say without, speaking to the person directly and getting sort of in a sense of sort of what symptoms that they were experiencing. And that's where when I do work, in a coaching session, it's not just about coaching, but it's about, getting an idea of what's really going on for them and where are the imbalances and what are the symptoms. And by that, I can get a sense of probably what foods are the offending ones for them, depending on what's going on in their bodies. But yeah, I would also have a sense that there's probably something going on in terms of like an insulin reaction, maybe even with cortisol, right? Because insulin and cortisol do have, can be very tightly associated, and that may be contributing to hot flashes as well. I mean, so those are a couple of theories. It's hard to say without, getting to know the person and understanding the whole cake, if that makes sense.
Right.
So hopefully,
Absolutely.
Diana, that answers your question.
Yeah, those are a challenge. Okay, listen, with that being said, I like to keep these things fairly short.
Hmm.
Again, this was an introduction. We are very, uh, we want you to be very interactive with us. So how this is going to
Oh,
play in the future
Dr.
is you've seen me, we will continue to do more of that, because what we want this to be is when we come on and do these types of things, we want to make this much more open to open to all of you. So what we will do is in the future, you will see that this format will change a little bit, whether it be just me on here, whether it be the both of us, or maybe just Michelle comes on. But we will get more into letting people, put the questions into the Facebook Live feed and go through those. But that's not really what we wanted to do tonight. We really wanted to say, hello, everyone. Here's who we are. We're here to support you. Let us know how we can best do that, and reach out whenever you can. So, Michelle, you want to say your goodbye?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you aren't aware, Dr. Jade asked where you can get in touch with me. If you aren't already aware, we're both very active on Twitter. So you can find me, Well Balance ND, so ND like naturopathic doctor. And that's also my handle for Instagram. So on Instagram, I do often post different recipe ideas that are allergen free. And I also talk a lot about autoimmune disease and endometriosis on my Instagram, if that's something that interests you. And you can always send me an email, michelle@wellbalance.ca, or you can send both of us an email through info@drwrigley.com. That's probably the best way to send us an email so that you can get in touch with both of us. And of course, if you want to learn more about Dr. Wrigley and myself, if you haven't been on the website yet, drwrigley.com, there is a whole page committed to a description about the both of us and our education and where we came from and all of that.
Anyway, I enjoyed this. We wanted to make contact, say hello, do our introduction. Please stay in touch with us. Let us know what it is that you want, where you specifically need help, because we really enjoy what we are doing. We're very results oriented. We like making success stories. This is the thing that me and Michelle get excited about. We want to see whether you're dealing with an autoimmune disorder, which Michelle would be the one to mainly spearhead some of that, or whether you are frustrated because you've been on a stall for a long time and you want to be that person that next spring looks back and you've lost the 40, 50 pounds, whatever it may be. This is what motivates us. We like creating success stories. We'd like to help you become one yourself. And with that, I'm going to say good night. See you soon.